Hi, I'm Reverend Tom Kearns, and welcome to 333 Magic 9, where the tarot cards and stars come together to help you. 2021 is going to be quite a different year than last year, but there still are some critical days you need to know about because they can affect your love, your money, and your career. So let's take a closer look. The card for the first quarter is the Three of Wands, and as you look at the Three of Wands, you can see he is looking out into the distance, and this is symbolic of looking forward into the future, seeing what opportunities may be coming. It's a new year. There's been a lot of changes, and especially Jupiter and Saturn are changing, and we'll go into that in a minute, but that's what he's looking for. He's looking to see what the new opportunities for Jupiter and maybe the challenges of Saturn, how they are coming in the future and how he can balance them to be more successful and more prosperous. So the first real important thing that is happening in January is that Jupiter and Saturn are conjunct and they're moving out of the sign of Capricorn. That happened in the late December, and they're moving into the sign Aquarius. Now, Jupiter and Saturn have been together with Pluto for the past year in Capricorn, and that is a lot of the reason for all the difficulty that we've seen in the world, the heaviness of the world, the pandemic, all the political upheaval and things of that nature. So as Jupiter and Saturn start to move into Aquarius, they also start separating. So Jupiter moves faster than Saturn, and this is actually a very good thing because now they can be their own characteristics, their own energy. So Jupiter brings optimism and new opportunities, and Saturn brings reality, and he says, look to long-term goals. So these two energies can work well together, but since they are in the sign of Aquarius, and we hear an awful lot about socialism, that is one of the things that would come under the rulerships of the sign of Aquarius. Doesn't mean it's good, not saying it's bad, it's just that's what's occurring. That's the energy that's occurring. The next big aspect and challenge is that Mars will square Saturn on the 13th. Mars is the red line here. Saturn is the orange line there. So you're going to have Saturn still in Aquarius squared to Mars, and Mars is going to be moving into Taurus, into the 10th house of career. Now this can be very difficult because Saturn represents frustrations and delays, and Mars is the energy that wants to move ahead and wants to conquer. So you're going to have to be a little bit careful with your energy, especially when it deals with issues of partnerships and career issues and coming before the public or social standing. The next day, Uranus turns direct, and this is happening up in the 10th house. So the 10th house is the house of career and, as I said, social status. So this brings changes and perhaps some new opportunities with it as well. So it's a lot of energy that is being focused up into the career area. So you're going to have to be aware of that, and you have to watch your P's and Q's and T's and I's, everything. So don't be too pushy. Now, the next biggie is a conjunction of Mars with Uranus, so Mars with Uranus, and both of them are going to be squaring Jupiter. Now, this is really a very powerful square when you have Mars, Jupiter, Uranus all inclined to clash with one another. And again, the outcome might fall here in the career area or in the relationship area. So you're going to have to be careful to control your desires, which is Mars. Uranus is willfulness, but sun and unexpected things. And then Jupiter is opportunity and gambling and freedom. And you have to be careful not to be too independent for your own good. And you have to make sure that you're not getting into any battles that you cannot win. On January 30th, Mercury, and that is the dark blue line, will be, excuse me, Mercury will be turning retrograde, and he will remain retrograde until February 21st. So this always suggests that some caution is needed in travel and communications and planning and things of that nature. So do keep an eye out for that. When we move into February, there is one really big aspect, and that is Saturn will now be moving into square with Uranus. Again, this comes from the house of relationships or coming before the public up into the career and status section. Now, Saturn tends to be conservative. Uranus tends to be just the opposite. So Saturn represents the past, Uranus represents the future. So this appears to be some sort of a battle of wills between wanting to go to the future and needing to stay in the past, or seeing things the way they were done compared to the way maybe they should be done now. One can never tell, because this is erratic. Now, Saturn is much more stable, so stability against the erratic energy. But Uranus also represents new technologies and anything dealing with the future, space and stuff like that. And since Uranus is in the sign of Taurus, this might have ramifications in banking and in business in a very big way. So you have to keep your eyes open if you're an investor. Now, when we move to March, Venus will move into the sign of Aries. Venus is the blue line here. And now Venus in Aries is not really the best place to be for Venus, because she tends to be gentle and wonderful, and she wants to be romantic. And Aries is really independent and wants to conquer. so there's a little bit of questionableness in this, and this might fall into the area of understanding different people, different cultures, trying to understand new ideas, trying to understand your own sense of ambition. Where do you want to go in the future? So that can become very important. As we move into the second quarter, which is April, May, and June, the card for the second quarter is the Seven of Pentacles. Now, the Seven of Pentacles represents that there has been some substance gained. So there's 7 pentacles, and there are 10 really in the deck. So 7 out of 10 means you got something. But there's also a hesitation here. There's a need to stop and see how you should use what you have gained. How should you use your resources? So everybody has resources, your talents, your personality, all that stuff can be looked at as resources. Now, how you're going to use it, that becomes the question over that second quarter. Now, the first thing that happens in April is the biggie is Mars square to Neptune. So there's Mars and there's Neptune there. So that square is going to be very challenging, because Mars again is very aggressive and Neptune can be very elusive. So during a square, you may have to be very careful about what you'll believe and what you won't believe. I'm not saying people are lying, they just might be a little bit confused. So don't you be confused. State your truth, stay to the truth, stay within the letter of the law, and don't get into any trouble, especially when it comes to dealing with intimate issues or with joint finances or investments, things of that nature. Next we have Mercury and Venus. Now, this is Mercury, this is Venus, and they are going to be conjunct to Uranus right here. And again, that is in the 10th house. Now, this can bring really some good energy, because Mercury is the mind, the logical mind, and communications, things of that nature. Venus is beauty and creativity, and they're conjunct Uranus. So you can use your visionary and your creative abilities to perhaps get ahead in your career or make some extra money. So make sure you're listening to your imagination and to your intuition, because they can bring some very good things to you. In May, as we move forward, Jupiter will enter Pisces right here in the 8th house for the first time in 12 years. Now, Jupiter was the old ruler of Pisces, so Jupiter has power in this sign. And Jupiter is the energy of increase and opportunity. Pisces is very sensitive and compassionate and spiritual. So you have to listen to that side of your nature, because a lot of creativity can come through that. A lot of healing can come through that. So you have to know that you need to treat close partners with maybe some great gentleness and generosity, and perhaps you'll get treated right back in the same way. That would be good. Now, as we move forward into the last week of the month, we're going to see that both Mercury, there's Mercury, and Saturn, there's Saturn, will both go retrograde. Now, Saturn rules structures and what you have learned. And when Saturn goes retrograde, it means you have to review those types of things. What kind of structures have you built in your life, particularly in the relationship area? And Mercury rules the mind and communications. So have you been listening carefully to what other people have been telling you? Have you been listening carefully to your basic intuition? Have you been making your creative ideas real? All of that may come up for adjustment. As we go into June, we're going to see Mars right down here in opposition to Pluto. So Mars will be up in the 12th house, just entering into the first, and he's going to be opposition Pluto in the 6th house of work and health. So you're going to have to look very carefully at your health. If you're doing things that are damaging to yourself, you need to change your habit patterns. You might have to get very busy at work so that you make sure you can be successful. You don't want to fall behind, and you want to be efficient. That becomes important, but you cannot be pushing. That would not be good. That might bring some problems. Now, on the 22nd of June, Mercury is going to be going direct, and that'll help clear up some misunderstandings or miscommunications. This will help you in the area of friendships or in any organizations or associations that you're involved in. So things may be clearing up in those areas. And then on the 20th of June, Jupiter, and on the 25th of June, Neptune, so that's Jupiter, and there's Neptune, they both go retrograde. So this is a very sensitive and intuitive and psychic area of your chart, so you need to be very clear in those areas. You cannot be over emotional, you cannot be over dramatic, or you might be the only star in your own show. So be a little bit careful there, and be aware of the needs of other people, not just your own, and be sensitive to them. And if you control your emotions, things will be okay. And again, it's sort of like a review time as well. So review your emotions, the way you feel about people, and what you're willing to give and what you think you need from them. As we move into the third quarter, and that is July, August, and September, the card is the Lovers. Woohoo! That's a great card. Now, the Lovers represent, there could be some romance, sexual attraction, cooperation, benefits through partnership. So, you know, it's more than just the loving part of it. There's also other meanings to this card. But it is a very positive card, and that means the energy can be used in a beneficial manner, particularly in new connections or in partnerships. So that can be very good and very helpful to you. So the month, though, begins on a very powerful Mars, right here, square to Uranus. Now again, Uranus is still up there in the 10th house, and that is the house of status. So you're going to have to be a little bit careful with your actions and the way you project yourself, so you don't come on being too willful or too independent, because you don't want your personality to have an adverse effect on your career, and you don't want changes in your career to throw off your personality. So you have to keep a little bit calm and keep calm and work on. So, and then Jupiter right here and Saturn are both going retrograde, and that's all month long. So Jupiter and Saturn are always considered having something to do with business and finances and things of that nature. So it'll be a good time to review, what you have earned, what you're planning to earn, how you're going to earn, what you want to do with all your energy, all your resources in the future, and how you want to do that with other people, because both of these houses, the 7th and the 8th house, both of those houses represent mixing with other people. So your energy coming before the public, or being with a relationship, and this is the energy that comes out of relationships, how energy is joined in relationships. So keep an eye into there. And then Venus and Mars will be together. Now that's the lovers. So Venus and Mars are going to be together all month. So this lights up the area of creativity and expression. So there could be a lot of romantic possibilities hanging around. But do remember, both Venus and Mars may find a little bit of extra energy because they are both squared a little bit to the planet Uranus. So you have to be a little careful with that, because that's the planet that can throw things off. So don't let your need to have a lot of fun get in the way of your duty and responsibilities in your business or career. As we move into August, Venus and Mars will move into the sign of Virgo and the 2nd house. Now this is like a business. Make some money, spend some money, make some money, spend some money. What do you want? You got to know what you want. You got to know what you value. So that's going to be very important. And as Venus and Mars go down into the sign of Virgo, you have to be careful not to be too critical of yourself or others. And you do have to watch all the details in any finances that you're doing, banking, your checkbook, so your credit cards. Keep one eye on that. And that's a good use of the critical abilities of Virgo, because criticism can be good. It doesn't have to be bad all the time. In fact, a good critic knows what he's talking about, because he has knowledge and understanding of the subject. So, you have to be aware of that. So watch your money. And then Uranus will go retrograde on the 19th, and since this is in the area of career and status, you will have to really keep an eye on how you are acting in your business, in your career, in the way that you deal on a social level, and a societal level, so to speak. And also, since Taurus rules the stock market, you have to keep an eye on how business is fluctuating, how finances are fluctuating. If you have a lot of money, let's say in banking stocks or things of that nature, they may fluctuate a lot because Uranus tends to fluctuate. They could be big highs or big lows. So keep one eye on that. You don't want to lose money. When we move ahead to September, something very interesting happens. Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto all go retrograde. Now, if there was ever a time to readjust, to reevaluate, September is that time. And it's going to be very important, because on the 27th of September, Mercury will be going retrograde. And that's down in the third house of the mind. So you're going to have to be willing to make adjustments in the way you think, where you're going, what your plans are, and you really, again, need to be very careful with details. Now, as we move into the fourth quarter, the card for the fourth quarter is the King of Swords. Now, as you look at him, you can see he's seated way up here on his throne, and he's even illuminated because this is a mental card. This is a mental energy, and he tends to be very clear. And that's where you're going to have to be. You've had all these experiences all year. What have you gained? What kind of understanding have you gained from them? So as we go into the month of October, Pluto, Saturn, Jupiter, and Mercury will all turn direct. So this should really help everybody in general, in communications, in business, and in making any personal changes that they need to make. Now there's a big aspect or a big movement that happens on one day, and that is on the 18th, because both Mercury, and that is this guy here, and Jupiter will go direct. So that should really help in the area of communications and in the area of thought. Remember, Mercury rules the lower mind, the everyday mind, the logical mind, and Jupiter rules the abstract mind, ideas and understanding, things of that nature. So both of them will be going direct on the same day. That's really good. And then when we go into November, we have something really unusual happening, because on November 11th, that's 1111, a very mystical number. It's thought to be very magical. However, here's the however, there is going to be a square between Mars and Saturn. I moved the paper. So Mars and Saturn really don't like each other. Mars is the god of war, and Saturn is the god of caution. Well, they just are different personalities. So the energy of Mars will conflict with the energy of Saturn. This can lead to power struggles and to frustration. So be a little bit careful. Don't push the river too much. All right, and then we go into December. And there's something very nice that happens at the very beginning of December. Neptune, that's Neptune right up here, will go direct on the 2nd, and he'll be making a sextile to Venus. That's a really nice aspect. So Neptune and Venus in good aspect really perk up romance and creativity and pleasure and things of that nature. So it should be a really good time, or it can be a good time if you make it that way. However, as the month goes along, Venus will go retrograde right here in your 6th house of health and work after making a conjunction to Pluto. Now, this is not that much of a friendly energy. Pluto purges and destroys. Venus likes to have a good time. So if you've been having too much of a good time, you're going to have to stop that, especially if it's affecting your health or your work, because you have to be efficient when there is energy in this house. Now, you want to be romantic, you want to have a good time, but you got to get to work. So remember that, and remember, what is it that you truly value in your life? Do you value just fun, or do you value being productive? And being rewarded for that production? Then you can have more fun. And then finally, just at the end of the month, Jupiter will go into Pisces on the 30th. Now, that's actually a good energy. Jupiter is really empowered in Pisces. Jupiter used to rule Pisces. So there's an increase in sensitivity, in psychic abilities, in creativity, in being able to express your deeper emotions. However, this is happening just before New Year's Eve. So you're going to have to be a little bit careful not to be overindulgent because you want to stay safe. So have a spiritual adventure for New Year's Eve and get ready for another new year. And it opens up under the auspice of Jupiter going into Pisces and Neptune being in Pisces. So that opens up a lot of spirituality. So many blessings to you in the coming new year. Hi, I'm Reverend Tom Kearns, and this is my story. If you are a spiritual seeker, it may help you on your journey. I believe your spiritual development is as important as your religion. If you look at Christianity, it focuses on the life of Jesus. But Jesus was never a Christian. He was Jewish. If this thought intrigues you, you'll enjoy my new book, Light from Water, Freeing Jesus. It's available on Amazon.com and through fine bookstores. And it may help you on your spiritual journey. I'd like to thank you for watching and thank you for listening. Remember to subscribe because these videos are free, and hit the little bell for notifications. And for a special offer, visit my website, internetpsychicreadings.com.